So let's get stuck into the previews. 245 at Cheltenham, first of all. El Elefante 4.0 and Canto Bruno 4.5. 5.0 for Tag Man. Mel Monroe is 5.5. Bigger prices thereafter. Steve Jones, I agree with you. Why?
Oh, no. Can I change my mind?
No. Why does he win?
And I don't know who Encanto Bruno is, but I was always a big fan of Frank Bruno.
Right, just to tell you, Encanto Bruno is from the film Encanto, where they talk about We Don't Talk About Bruno. So that's it.
I've never heard of any of it. Is it recent?
It is quite recent. It's a kid's film.
Oh, is it? Oh, well. Anyway, Encanto Bruno won at this meeting last year in a really good bumper, beating Strong Leader, who obviously went on to have a successful season over hurdles, was second at Aintree in the Grade 1. So that's obviously good form. Ran it in the bumper at March, presumably laid out for it, but then the ground was obviously very soft in the Champion bumper. That's no good. Made a very easy winning debut. I'm not sure it would be a huge amount, but it wasn't certainly the worst maiden hurdle ever run in Ireland at Bellersdown. So that was a good starting point. And then last time at Galway, up to 2.5, which is the same trip as this, which I think is Encanto's Bruno's trip. Made a really bad mistake at the first and never really got going after that. So I'm happy to rule that out. And I think we will see what Encanto Bruno will be able to do this afternoon. Is it this afternoon? No, it's on Friday, isn't it? On better ground. So I think the ground, the trip, and the fact that we can rule out last time's effort, it points to Encanto Bruno having a good chance.
Yeah, I just felt, Matt, that I know you're with El Elefante, who I'm a huge fan of. I just thought that there was enough for Encanto Bruno to be favourite and not El Elefante. So that was, he's half a point bigger, and so I'd rather back Encanto Bruno at that and add to what Steve said. But it's not a very strong opinion. How strong is your El Elefante opinion?
Yeah, quite strong, although I do like Encanto Bruno. I put him up actually for the Champion bumper, as Steve said, that the Swamp didn't suit him. He's changed stables from John McConnell to Gavin Cromwell, along with one other of the owner's horses. So it'd be interesting to see what, if any, impact that has. The reason I like El Elefante, two things. Firstly, it was the winning in really taking style with 24 lengths of Perth hurdles debut last month. Galloped into the ground. What looked a decent mare of John McConnell's Stadium Talk, point bumper and hurdle winner, the latter by 15 lengths, earning a RPO of 129. Now, one of the nebulous arts of punting, especially in the novice hurdle division, is to interpret vibes coming out of different yards. If you're listening to Nigel Twiston-Davies or Ollie Murphy, you have to use the context. They're generally positive about their horses. If you listen to Evan Williams or Henry Daly, then you need to remember they tend to be cautious about their horses. And the vibes from the Russell team have been really strong. In a recent stable tour, Lucinda said, you have to pinch yourself to be training horses of El Elefante's quality. Scoo was interviewed after she won at Perth, made no bones about the fact this year as a potential star. And the context is that I remember reading in the Racing Post just before he ran in the Sefton, Scoo quoted as saying, we've had some good staying herders before, and Ahoy Signor looks up to the best of them. Now, given they trained the ill-fated Brindisi Breeze to win the Albert Bartlett, that was some statement about a horse who'd been second in a bumper and just won an ordinary maiden hurdle in workmanlike fashion. He went off 67.0, beat Brave Man's Game. And having not taken the hint then, ever since I've been paying attention to the vibes coming out of that yard, they've tended to be well worth listening to. It's a stable very much on the up. They're getting better prospects now. So the vibes won't always be right. But when you combine what they think El Elefante is and what she looked like she might well be at Perth, that makes her look a formidable opponent here. This does look a strong race for a Class 2 in October, and obviously there are unexposed types in it. But that 4.0 I thought was a big price for a horse who I could see being a Grade 1 horse later in the season.
And Daniel Overall.
Yeah, I echo what Matt said. I think this is a good race. I think it's actually got more depth to it than the Grade 2, which we'll come to talk about. I can perfectly see the case for Canto Bruno, Elefante as well. I think she's a real strong staying type. So maybe if 2.5 on good ground at Cheltenham, maybe on the sharp side against Geldings, we'll see. But the horse I thought who, on form, I think should be favourite is Tagman. Obviously, the likes of the Goodland, high-class hero, Ashrow Diamond, Grange Clare West. He's been placed behind all of them, especially last season. Earlier towards last season, he was just too keen for his own good. He still does have that tendency, but I think he is a bit more measured now. I think his run behind high-class hero recently, I mean, he's given that horse the most to do of any rival he's faced so far, and he looks like he actually could be one for spring festivals in time. So I think that's pretty solid form. Obviously, he's race fit. He finally got off the mark last time out in a weaker race. But, I mean, his rating that he's been given, 135, sets a fair standard here. I think the question with him is if he's going to be settled enough to stay up the hill. I think he'll travel like the winner. He will travel best for these, I think. Just whether the hill catches him out at the end, I'm not sure. So maybe he's one to back and then look him running and see if you can get out if it looks like he's been a bit too fresh for the race. But I thought he should be favourite based on what he's achieved so far.
All right, 3 different horses in that race at Cheltenham. The 2.5 mile, 3:20, is a novices limited handicap chase with Ginny's Destiny now with Paul Nicholls at 4.0, 6.5 Moon Hunter, Hurricane Bay and Passing Well are 8.0. Bigger prices thereafter. A few Hurricanes here. Dan, I'm going to come straight back to you. You and Steve agree with Railway Hurricane.
Yeah, I think this is a good race. I think winners will come out of this. I think the top of the market is dominated by horses making their chase debut. I don't think it's easy to do that at Cheltenham. And that's kind of what led me to Railway Hurricane, who's the complete opposite. I mean, he's had 23 runs over fences, still qualifies for a novice handicap chase, which kind of tells you all you need to know. Like, he's not the easiest horse to get right. He's often been a very difficult ride, does not want to get to the front at really any point in his race. But I think he's starting to become a bit more tractable now. Got off the mark 3 starts ago and actually did have to battle there to beat Mr. Saxo Beat, who reopposes. I don't think the difference in weight is going to make too much difference. He was second over course and distance last year in November, runs off the same mark here, then bumped into a handicap plot job basically last time out. So he's in form. I think he'll be travelling into the race well. There could be 1 or 2 in here that have a bit too much scope for improvement. I just thought the difficulty was finding which one. You could make a case for, I think, 5 or 6 of them. But as I said, I think making your chase debut at Cheltenham is not an easy thing to do. We know what Railway Hurricane's about. He'll travel into the race and he might find 1 or 2 too good. So I think win and place with a bit more of the place market is probably the way I'm going to play it.
Round about 13.0. Steve?
Yeah, this is another Gavin Cromwell horse who was second at this meeting last year. Or was it the November meeting? It was the November meeting to Unanswered Prayers. And I think he goes, although he probably handles testing ground because he has to in Ireland, I think he's better when he gets decent ground, which he's going to get this weekend. And like Dan said, I think experience is the key to some of these races. You can get all excited about the sexy ones making their chase debut and that, but if they don't pick their feet up, it's going to be a bit of a struggle. And he beat Mr. Saxo Beat at Tipperary in July on decent ground, and Mr. Saxo Beat is also in the field, and just thought that it was at the prices the way to go. Railway Hurricane.
I'm small win bet on Ginny's Destiny, who I don't mind Paul Nicholls' chase debutantes. They'll be fired up this time of year. He was quite positive about him in One Jump Ahead, the book that I've picked up by Mark Howard, and the conditions will be ideal. I think he's a soundish ground horse. The trip's right, and yeah, I think he can kick on from 135 this year. I frankly think it's a bit of a trainer upgrade. So I'd be small win bet Ginny's Destiny. We move on to the 355 contest. I'll have prices soon enough, but this is open. And Steve, take it away. You and Dan agree again.
Oh, sorry, Dan.
No, I'll apologise to you, mate. We'll go down together.
Ooh, don't know about that. Willie the Builder. This is a red hot race. When all 8 runners have won last time out. But Willie the Builder, I was really impressed with it. Utoxeter first time out.
Do I need to apologise? I feel like that could be an apology. I don't know. Should that be an apology for Do we need to
It's been
apologise?
flagged.
Well,
for explicit
I
content.
feel like, Dan, maybe you
apparently-
should apologise on Steve's behalf, I think, really. Just for
ladies and gentlemen listening, I do apologise for both me and Steve Jones' behaviour. It's not appropriate for this
Thank
time
you.
of day on the podcast here. We apologise profusely. Please forgive us.
Thank you. Steve.
Apparently, Sky Sports News cut Fatima Whitbread off because she said asked. Oh, well.
I'm
And he's gone.
Oh, he's gone. Just
Daniel's just not taking that. Jones out.
Jones is gone. Right, go on, Steve. Willie the Builder.
Right. Willie the Builder, very impressed at Utoxter. Obviously, you don't know what the strength of the form, but this horse had run twice in bumpers in Ireland, including when second it punches down in at the big meeting. So not in the championship bumper, obviously, but that was really good starting point for Dan and Harry Skelton. And I think it's in a red hot race where you could make a case for no end of them. I think he's got a good chance.
And Dan.
Yeah, so I agree. I was gutted look away around here and not in one of the 2.5 mile handicaps over here or Aintree. I obviously put him up on the preview show. He's such a good mark, 122. I just don't get why they're running him over 2 miles here. Like, I think this is going to be too sharp for him. Plenty of decent types in there. What they've achieved is questionable. And I think Willie the Builder, like Steve said, I was really taken by him at Utoxter. And to be fair, I think this has been a bit of a long-term plan with him since they acquired him. They referenced after his Utoxter win that they wanted to get everyone into him before coming to this race. Obviously, it's now rearranged the October meeting. Looked really sharp, full of speed. Still looked a bit green, Utoxter, but pulled away at 2 decent types pretty quickly. The third is one of the 2 starts over hurdles. The second was giving weight away, but had 1-2 bumpers and a hurdle race during the summer, so was race fit. So I think to do that on his hurdling debut was really impressive. Dan Skelton obviously doesn't mind sending a decent type to Utoxter to make the hurdling debut. In recent years alone, he's had the likes of Third Time Lucky, Katira, Favour, Molly, all these wishes all go there. So it's a well-trodden path for him to send a decent type to Utoxter early in the season. And I think Willie the Builder could be a decent type going forward.
I think the same about Active Authority, who bumped into 2 good horses, including the Aintree bumper winner in his 2 bumper starts, and was very good 23 days ago. All right, it wasn't much of a race, but I was just surprised he wasn't a little shorter anyway. I mean, these are the types of horses that Ollie Murphy does very well with. So at 5.5, I'd rather play him than bang at the top of the market. Matt.
Yeah, fascinating that Willie the Builder, the boys like. The 2 horses he finished just behind in the Irish Point, No Flies on Him and Django Bay, have been real buzz horses this autumn. So keen to see what he can do. So I was toing and froing a lot about this. It's pretty trappy, I think. Small stakes for me. I'm sticking with the one Dan and I put up in the Jumpers to Follow podcast, Look Away, who, rather than exploiting that mark, has been pitched into this by Neil King. Punters are naturally attracted to the unknown quantities that are shown promise, but in terms of all form shown so far, Look Away's Aintree Grade 2 bumper form is the best. And if he retains that level of ability, then with Neil King's horses going well again, 7.0 looks decent value, but small stakes here for me.
That's the official Friday races done and dusted. We move on to any other Friday bets, of which I'm going for Jetronic for Paul Nicholls in the 210. That's the My Mate Mozzie race. I'll come back to that when we have a lay, but I think Jetronic, who has won over fences in France, a bit more of a sort of an old school type of Paul Nicholls purchase. He's still a novice till the end of November, and just the type of horse that Paul does well with. So I'll side with Jetronic at the prices over My Mate Mozzie. Steve.
The 4:30 Mole Court of Ben Pauling's, ridden by Jack Andrews, who's about 7 foot or something. And he's a very good amateur jockey. And this horse, Mole Court, has taken really well to fences. And I think they've lined it up for this. Won 3 times in the summer and is probably still improving and got a fair bit more potential off that sort of mark. So Mole Court in the 4:30. And in the last, another trainer I've got a lot of time for is Kieran Burke, who is experienced some choppy waters through no fault of his own since he had Hunt Ball, and is back on track now and showing how good he is, because Soul Icon, who he runs in the last race, was prolific in the summer of 2022 and won at this meeting last year and came back last time out to win at Fontwell, and I think he's still got more in him. I think Soul Icon has got a good chance in that last race.
The reason Jack Andrews rides for Ben Case is because he actually makes him feel like the height of a jockey. True that.
Ooh, have you got any more gags?
Couple more. Could do one for you. Dan.
Yeah, a couple of interest, I think, on Friday. So Affodil in the opening race is one I'm very keen on. I thought all of last year this was a juvenile who would kick on again. If you get plenty of juveniles, you think they're going to be 4-year-olds and they probably peak there. But I think he's a horse who still has plenty of upside. Improved all of last season. Ran well in the Fred Winter. Obviously ended this season with a convincing win. They've compared him to Old Guard. And Old Guard, who won this race in 2015 and then went on to win the Greatwood. That's a target they've got in mind for Affodil as well. Freddie Gingle on board in a conditional jockeys race, I think, is very good value for what he's going to be claiming 6 here. And when they team up with Paul Nicholls in these type of races, it's 6 runners, 2 wins and 3 place. They tend to be bang there. And I think Affodil could make up into a horse in the 140s in time. So I think he's got a fair bit in hand in that opener. And then come to the amateur jockeys race. Strictly a Dancer, well, I think heads the market just about. But I think if you look at the way he's been campaigned, this has probably been the plan for a bit. Like he won this race a couple of years ago. Admittedly, that was off £11 higher mark, but he did go on to win a couple more times. He was actually £1 below his last winning mark. His prep now is like near enough identical to what it was 2 years ago. Quick run at Chepstow. I think he ran in the Native River. Obviously, a very decent race. Was always out the back, drifted in the market, was never really put into it. I think this race would have been the plan for some time. Gina Andrews on board. Obviously, the Yard are pretty desperate for a winner, but I think this is the horse who's going to get them one.
Matt Toombs.
Yeah, taking a bit of a punt in the last on Milkwood, who's a double-figure price in early trading. Obviously, at this time of year, you want to be looking at horses with good records, fresh. He's got a good record of seasonal debut, winning at 7.0 2019, 2.88 2020, second in the Galway Hurdle 2021, then second in the Welsh Champion Hurdle last year. He's had 4 modest runs since then, seen his mark fall a stone from 148 at Fosslas to 134 here. He's 9. He might just be steeped on the downgrade. But you should hopefully get this trip better now. And if there is time to catch him, this is probably it. So worth a little bit of a